Hello and greetings. This is Guy Glidden. The purpose of this is to provide a review of assignment number 1 for a Research 1 course. And this assignment is all about the research article selection and critique process. Let me try that again. Research article selection and critique process. Now, there are several resources that are being provided to you. One is also a screencast, and it's called Selection and Critique Demo. In that case, I actually demonstrate the process with a couple of completed research articles. Now, in addition to support those, although they're not written on this sheet, the research articles that I will be using for demonstration are also provided, so you will have the opportunity to read one or both of those in detail as you're looking at my rationale for the selection and critique process. And in addition, a rubric guide is also going to be placed in Moodle, so you'll have a full set of resources to get started on this assignment. A little bit about this process here that we need to go through, that this is basically what you're going to do. You're going to, for this assignment, select and critique 3 search articles that are related to the topic need statement that you are providing yourself, and then provided in these critiques in written format in which the questions of the rubric are going to be addressed. And so this is kind of give you an overview. Now, why is this assignment being required? Well, pretty simple. There's a multiplicity, a huge glut of information available to you at your fingertips. You can do it, I can do it, I can use my iPad and my computer. Many of you can do it on cell phones. The world is at your fingertips, and that's not an overstatement at all. But here's the problem. None of this information has been verified or vetted, so you're going to have to be the sole determinant of whether all this information that you have access to is of any value to you. Take a brief second and compare this to show you the change that's happened and how rapidly it's changed. When I did my PhD study completion 40-some years ago, a little over 40 years ago, at a major university, the only way that we could get information was to go to a recognized research library and look for paper copies. It was a long, laborious process. We uncovered lots of dusty and dirty publications in hot summer days without much air conditioning. So we had a dickens of a time finding a lot of relevant articles to support the project we were working on. The other side of the coin was that once we found the articles in a recognized university research library, we didn't have to worry about verification. We knew that it would not have, the article that we were looking for on their publication would not be included in this institution if it hadn't already been verified. Now, exact opposite from your situation. You have complete access, that's not the problem. Now you got to spend your time verifying. That's what this is all about. Here are the questions I'm going to ask you to address in each one. The 5 are there. I'll probably not spend a lot of time going through these in this case, but just to make sure they're there. One has to do with justification. You're going to have to justify your selection of the article and based on your statement of the topic and the need. Goes back to the pre-assignment. That's pretty important because that's going to set the stage. Okay, secondly, you're going to want to make sure that you know that this is actually, or the type of article it is. As basically, the holy grail is to look for reports of actual completed research. Now, there's several other alternatives that you can use you can find that are listed as research articles, but you want to kind of diminish the value of those. For example, you can find some articles that are simply summaries of research articles that were completed at an earlier date. Those are of some value, but of limited value. And I've seen lots of examples on the internet of people who put out something they call a research article, and if there's any research on it, I sure can't find it. So it's a lot of opinion, but not research. So you're looking for the real McCoy, actual reports of completed research studies. And here are some of the things that you're going to be looking for right here. For example, Is there evidence that there are actual subjects in the research? If it's a real report of research, you're going to see a description of the subjects that are the source of the data. You're going to find a description of the method used to collect and verify data. You're going to find a complete discussion or outline or presentation of the organization and treatment of the information. In other words, what we call the methodology section. All the steps that were required to set up, organize, and collect the research. And then you're going to find something that's going to be reporting of the research outcomes that are directly related to the evidence that's there. If you find good evidence in the things you're reading that those things are there, you probably have been able to identify a primary source of a completed research study. And then finally, so that's the big issue I'm looking for. And then finally, after you go through and review this stuff, you need to answer the question, the obvious question: is there evidence that the study that you've examined makes any sense? So you need to be, and to support that, question 5 on this rubric is really important. Is there evidence that, I want to see evidence that you've asked effective questions about this research study. If you don't understand it, that's fair game, but don't pretend that you do. Be honest about the process. If there are questions about things that are being done that you're not really understanding, it's fair game to ask those questions. Research, reading, reporting, reviewing, comparing has to be a totally transparent process. This is what you're going to try to do. Okay, so basically the first thing in the process is you got to find a research article. So look at your topic, and you got to make some judgment calls when you select the article. You're going to look for a direct report of completed research, and again, as I said, you might find a summary. You're going to have to be careful. So in other words, you're going to have to find something that looks like it's pretty close to the topic, or in other words, something that can be justified as a research article that's related to your topic. But you're going to have to read it through to find out if it's really going to pass muster, because you could find something that looks pretty good. Also, you're going to find a number of examples of evidence of research articles that you can't get for free. So you're going to have a lot of false starts. Don't give up. You're going to have to, and you probably need to support it by looking for some suggestions. Make a list of possible sites. Go into your internet directory and look for professional organizations, institutions that specialize in this topic. They're frequently identified. Start to phrase your question about research or your prompts that you go into Google with in different ways. For example, a real obvious thing is, if I say I want a report on middle school reading, it's going to give me a description of some middle school reading programs, but not much research. If I go in and add the word research, as in I want to see research studies on middle school research, I'm more likely to get something that's a true research study about middle school reading. So, and you may have to reorganize the arrangement of the terms. Middle school reading research might, for some reason, give you something than research on middle school reading. The more specific you can, so you have to be persistent and patient to do this. You're not going to go in 5 minutes and find the first article that you want. It's not going to happen, so be persistent. You'll have to spend a little time in the selection process. Now, in the demo article, I'm going to demonstrate this with 2 research articles, and one's going to be To Work or Not to Work, a 2-year study of teen employment in Sedgwick County. This is a study that I did, so you're going to look at this process, and you're going to be able to look over my shoulder in order to do this, and I think that's a valuable part of the process. But you need to think in terms of the questions that we talked about up here. And then you need to go ahead and maybe when you go to look at this article here, you need to maybe think in terms of some of the questions that you could answer. Then watch my video on the demo process and see how close you were. That might be a good way to do it. Same way, I have another one on large-scale computerized testing. Again, The articles are quite a bit different, but the reason I gave them to you is it'll give you a good view of the differences in the process you're going to do. Okay, so what's the next step? Okay, use your prep assignment for direction. That's going to give you the topic. Begin the search process for an appropriate article. And I said, be patient. You're going to have to look hard. You probably will have a bunch of throwaways for every article you get. Or sometimes you're going to get to an article and they're going to say, this is a nice article and you can buy it for your use. Well, then you're going to make a judgment call. I frankly don't think you need to do that. I think if you're persistent and you exercise patience, you're going to find enough articles that you can get for free on the internet that's going to satisfy this assignment. But you're going to have to look hard. You're going to have to look for something that matches the issues of your prep assignment. So read and mark the copy of the article. My critiquing of a research article is a really messy process. I make little squiggle notes. I write out in the margins. I take things and align it very carefully. So if, for example, if somebody says in paragraph 1, this is what I'm going to research, I immediately go back to the end of the article and see, is there evidence that that person ever completed research as he or she said they were going to do on the process? Then, I think then you need to sit down and you need to do a draft of review and critique. And that will give you a process. So you can now, once you send make a draft of your review and critique process, it's important for you to know that in this course, every assignment on your part is basically a draft assignment in this sense. I'm going to read it. I'm going to apply the rubric for the assignment. I'm going to rate it. I'm going to send it back to you. And if you miss the boat pretty terribly, I will try to help you through the process. I'm not going to leave you in the lurch. This is a joint process. We're going to work together. But if you look at the rubric ratings I've given you, you're satisfied with what you've got, move on to other assignments. If not, you always have the opportunity to redo and rewrite assignments. I hope this gives you a view of the process, and we're going to have lots of discussion. I happen to think that this process right here, selecting and critiquing articles, research articles, is probably the single most important skill of this class. So let's work together to see we get a good start in doing this process. And also, this is going to lay the carpet for lots of the other assignments you want to do.